Voters in Georgia turned out in record numbers, as the battleground state opened early voting for the November 5th presidential election. Georgia's number 2 election official, Gabriel Sterling, said the number of voters who cast ballots on the first day of early voting was nearly double what the state recorded in 2020. Matthew Brown is a voter from Cobb County, Georgia.
It's critically important that everyone at least voices their vote. January 6th was a defining moment for me. And I think that we have to separate the practical policies that help people from the political policies that divide us.
With 8.2 million registered voters, Georgia is crucial in the neck-and-neck race between Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris and her Republican rival Donald Trump.
I think this is probably the most important voting season of our lifetime.
Georgia voter Peg Timpone explained why voting in this election means so much to her.
I'm of the age when women's rights came into focus in the early 70s, and to see us losing that, I believe in choice. Every person has a choice, but I also believe there should be a separation of church and state.
Early voting, either in person or by mail, has become increasingly popular with U.S. voters. According to the University of Florida's election lab, nearly 1 in 7 voters cast their ballots ahead of Election Day in 2020.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky unveiled his much-anticipated victory plan on Wednesday.
Slava Ukraini!
An outline that he said could end the current war with Russia no later than next year. As Moscow's forces advance in the east and a bleak winter of power cuts looms, Zelensky said victory rested on 5 points that were in the hands of Kiev's Western allies. They included an invitation to join NATO and the freedom to use Western weapons to strike deeper into Russia. He said Kiev needed what he called a, quote, comprehensive non-nuclear strategic deterrence package to protect against future threats from Russia, a Western role in protecting Ukraine's natural resources from Russian attack, and post-war pledges for reconstruction. The plan is a major test of the political will of Kiev's key allies, who have poured in many billions of dollars of weapons to support Ukraine. NATO has said Ukraine is heading for membership, but has stopped short of issuing an invitation.
This is clearly Ukraine's victory plan, which we, of course, take note of, we will discuss.
NATO Chief Mark Rutte on Wednesday said he was aware of the details of Ukraine's victory plan, but did not directly respond to Kiev's demand.
This is something which will take place behind closed doors.
Russia on Wednesday denounced the victory plan, saying Zelensky was trying to push NATO into a direct conflict with Moscow. Zelensky's proposal comes more than 2 years since Russian forces invaded Ukraine in the largest military conflict Europe has seen since the Second World War. The Ukrainian military managed to repel the initial Russian onslaught and even recapture swaths of territory. But as the sides settled into a grinding ground war in the east, Kiev's forces found themselves outnumbered and under pressure. Moscow turned to unrelenting drone and missile attacks on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. And next month's U.S. election could propel Donald Trump, who has been consistently skeptical of Ukraine aid, back to the White House.
Mr. President, welcome back to the White House. Welcome back to the Oval Office.
Zelensky met U.S. President Joe Biden, his key ally, in Washington at the end of September to present the plan. Zelensky said he would travel to a summit of European Union leaders in Brussels on Thursday.
North Korea has designated South Korea a hostile state, its state media said on Thursday. It confirms that the North's National Assembly has amended the country's constitution to align with leader Kim Jong-un's vow to abandon unification with the South as a national goal. And earlier this week, North Korea's military destroyed sections of road and rail links at the border, calling it a legitimate action against a hostile state as defined by the new constitution. According to state news agency KCNA, road and railway links nearly 200 feet long on the north side are now completely blocked as part of a phased complete separation from the south. State media also quoted a Defense Ministry spokesperson saying that Pyongyang would take further steps to permanently fortify the closed southern border, but did not provide details on any additional constitutional changes. A satellite image released by the imagery company Black Sky, taken on Wednesday, showed a large split at the border crossing between North Korea's Kaesong and South Korea's Paju. Seoul has strongly condemned North Korea's constitutional change and its designation as a hostile state. The South's Unification Ministry said it would not back down from its efforts for a peaceful reunification. Thursday's news follows Kim Jong-un's call for a constitutional amendment in January to erase unification as a goal in its ties with the South, accusing Seoul of working with the United States to undermine his regime.
The first migrants to be diverted by Italy to Albania arrived at the port of Shengjin on Wednesday. It set in motion the first scheme by an EU state to transfer asylum seekers to another nation. Under the controversial deal, Italy built 2 reception centres in Albania, with the government hoping the process will deter migrants from entering Italy in the first place. 16 migrants, comprising 10 Bangladeshis and 6 Egyptians, were escorted from the Italian Navy ship Libra to one of the port's reception centres. Rights groups oppose the deal, saying it restricts migrants' right to asylum. Marta Villander is from the International Rescue Committee.
There's a number of groups who should be exempted from this deal, so the elderly, unaccompanied children and those who have survived torture and trafficking and so forth. But we are concerned that there are no guarantees for ensuring that they are indeed exempted from this, and they could instead end up in prison-like conditions outside of EU territory.
Rising tension in Europe over migration issues has set many nations, including Germany and Poland, to propose or adapt tougher policies. The UK's previous government had planned to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, which Prime Minister Keir Starmer scrapped after taking office in July. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said this week that her country was setting an example for the rest of Europe with the Albanian scheme. But a small group of Albanian human rights protesters demonstrated against the new scheme, saying it ends their belief that Europe is a place of democracy, of values, of human rights. The migrants will be sent either to Italy if their asylum request is granted, or to their home country if rejected.
A cloud of smoke and patches of flames were captured in this eyewitness video overnight in northern Nigeria after an accident involving a fuel tanker turned deadly. Police and state emergency services said Wednesday the driver lost control of the vehicle, leading to a fuel spill which exploded, killing at least 147 people and wounding dozens of others. The accident is one of the worst in recent times in Africa's most populous nation, which is battling with widespread security threats and a cost of living crisis. The burned and bent metal tanker remained on its side following the accident about 330 miles north of Nigeria's capital of Abuja. A mass burial was held for the dead on Wednesday. Many roads in Nigeria are poorly maintained and riven with potholes, causing accidents that claim dozens of lives every year. Last month, at least 48 people were killed in north-central Nigeria when a fuel tanker exploded after colliding with another truck carrying travelers and cattle, trapping other vehicles as well in the
China is doubling down on support for its battered property sector.
是年底前将白名单项目的信贷规模
At a news conference Thursday in Beijing, Housing Minister Ni Hong set out a raft of new measures. He says the government will expand a so-called white list to $562 billion by year-end. That's the list of housing projects that can get financing to ensure they can be finished and delivered to buyers. There are no official estimates on the number of homes pre-sold but unfinished in the country. However, one report by Japanese bank Nomura put the number at 20 million.
通过货币化安置的方式
Thursday also saw a pledge to accelerate the redevelopment of cities, with 1 million urban villages included in the plans. Ni said people being resettled as part of the projects would help to fill up the existing stock of empty homes. He claimed the moves would mark the bottoming out of the property market. It's all just the latest in a series of steps to support the sector, which has been in crisis since 2021. That has seen big developers struggle with their debts and sparked a long downward spiral in home prices. However, markets were unimpressed by Thursday's news, with China's real estate index tumbling nearly 8%. Traders said the moves weren't dramatic enough to lift the mood.